All right, everyone, here on the Wandering Sword today, I'm Spencer,
I'm Kyle.
and we have a special guest for you today. Phil, would you like to introduce yourself?
How's it going? Yep, I'm Phil Swift, and I am a Hema instructor at Terra Nova School of Swords. I'm a certified instructor by the Hema Alliance, and I'm also a charter rep for the Saber Legion as well.
Very cool, very cool. So how long have you been doing this now, Phil? Like, what got you into this?
I want to say about almost 5 to 6 years. Not as long as you guys, though.
Oh, hey, that's all right. We all gotta start somewhere.
Right. But yeah, I came across Hema, or actually I came across the SCA first when I moved to Michigan. And me and the wife, we wanted to do an activity together. So we're like, let's try fencing, or like sport fencing, right? But unfortunately, MSU wouldn't let me join because I wasn't a student. Because I was because she was doing her postdoc at MSU, and so I kind of just came along for the ride. Like, all right, let's go to America.
And where are you originally from, Phil?
I'm from Toronto, Ontario, in Canada.
Awesome.
Yeah, now I'm living in Newfoundland, and it's different. It's different. But I brought some of my Michigan mentality here. I don't want to be a city boy anymore. I just want to have some land, cut some wood.
Nice nature for you. That's super cool.
Right.
And one thing before we get to, we have lots of questions to go through today because people want to know. I mean, it's cool to know about martial arts from all around the world. And one thing about around the world, when you said Newfoundland has its own time zone, I was like, what?
So we had to look that up. We had to look it up. We're like, no, it's not. Oh.
And you're like, it's about 2.5 hours ahead of you. I'm like, interesting. I've learned something.
We're far east.
That's awesome. Well, once again, thank you so much for coming with us today. Well, let's start off with Kyle. Want to go with the first question?
All right. First question. What made you want to learn about swordplay?
Okay. Man, I've had a sword since I was a kid, just like one of those plastic katana ones, and I've always swung it around. I used to practice like every night without even knowing I was doing like sword fighting, right? Like without knowing sword fighting existed as a martial art. So I used to just like swing my sword around every night, at least an hour. So I was practicing before I even knew I was practicing. And
so cool.
Man, as soon as I saw like SCA folks just fencing out in the open, that's what drew my attention. And I showed up at the next practice right away, and they gave me a rapier, and they're like, showed me a few moves, and they're like, all right, go for it. And
Good luck.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And at that point in time, I was hooked though, and I wanted more. And that's how I found Hema, because I wanted to know, like, historically, how did they do it?
Yeah.
Right. So in the search for that kind of knowledge, I found Hema, and then it became my world.
That's so cool. That's really cool. Now that actually goes into a good point where we talked before, and I know we've been talking back and forth through Facebook, and you recently had a discovery where you were talking about you made a big decision. It's a big life-changing decision lately. Did you want to talk about that just a smidge, if you could?
Oh yeah, for sure, man. Well, the goal is I want to do this full time. There's literally a handful of people that can do this. You know, Duello, Academy Duello, Greg Melee from Chicago Swordplay Guild, and I can't even tell who else. I can't even name anybody else who does this full time.
Only a couple more.
Right?
Like
Only
Devin Borman's a big one.
Yeah, Jay Noyes in Japan.
Right. Oh yeah, true. I meant in North America. I can.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, but that's the thing is we have to pull from other continents just to be like, well, there's others in the world.
Right. Exactly. And I know, like, I'm not sure like how their background was, whether they came from money or like they had made a lot of money before they did this. But I don't come from money, and everything was, and so it's very hard to do this full time. To build it from scratch, like from no, so I'm gonna make the huge leap. Like I'm sort of sick of my mundane life, and it's not like really it's not giving me the pleasures. Like it's not making me happy.
Sure. I
Essentially.
mean, you're looking for fulfillment, right? It's not, it
Yeah,
doesn't,
yeah.
not, money's not everything. So yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And I did like a sales projection. I'm like, okay, let's see how much money I could really make and if I went full time in Hema. And then they ended up to be less than minimum wage.
Sure.
In the first 2 years. And I'm like, okay, so I want to talk to the wife about this, and if she's cool with this, if we can carry us for 2 years, I might be able to make a decent wage, hopefully by five,
Yeah.
by 5 years. And
Yeah,
so
that's so
sorry,
hard, but it's so hard, but it's a brave decision to like make that choice to face the financial hardship. That's pretty awesome, actually.
right.
No.
So I was like, it's either you make good money, but you don't, or decent money, but you're never happy, or you go full time into this, and and then you can be happy. And mental health for me is everything. So
Very
I'm
much
hoping that, yeah, exactly.
No, I think I'm hoping that really works well for you too. I didn't mean to cut you off at that point. And I think
No,
it's something
no.
cool where we form the community. And this isn't part one of the questions, but this is where we each try to make each another successful because we have something to
Right.
learn from each person, or you can help be each other's billboards and be like, oh, I don't know this, but go see Phil Swift and he'll teach you how to be faster with a blade than anybody out there. But I mean, yeah, that's so cool, man. Well, I'm sure we'll talk more about that during that part, but thanks.
For sure.
Kyle, you want the next one?
All right, next question, and this is doubly so because you just started this new brilliant plan of yours. What is the hardest obstacles for training posed by COVID-19?
Oh man. Okay. Honestly, this is sort of. I'm gonna mix the two questions together a little bit and tell
right.
you like my frustrations with COVID-19.
Yeah.
Well,
please.
because essentially I was about this close to signing a lease and accomplishing my dream. Like I would have had the local kendo school. There's only one in all of Newfoundland, and it's a huge island. And it's this myself, Hema, kendo, and modern fencing all under one roof with the lease. And then COVID happened. And so everybody has to start from scratch again. We lost our members, obviously. So everybody's just scrounging up and, all of our pieces and trying to get back to where we were. But we were this close. But I'm glad I didn't sign it because then I would have been paying for this lease. You know what I mean? And so I would have started the business pretty bad. So like, thank you for not signing.
Yeah. Like, thanks, past me.
Exactly. Thanks, but no. But I'm glad I didn't sign. But like, I was so mad, and I got a little bit depressed too because you're just like so close, right?
Yeah.
But with COVID and everything there, it gave me some time to kind of go through some of the material sources, try new material sources, and I really used the time to expand my YouTube channel. So so I went through, I taught myself Destreza Saber, Spanish Saber, particularly in Mexico. It was a Spanish man that moved to Mexico and wrote this treatise. And then there was another one in Toledo, Spain, that was like a master for the cadets. So he was teaching the cadets saber. And so I read those two books and I made a video series on my progress on what I've learned, my interpretation of the manual, and just like gave people the tools to kind of to read the manual on their own and use my videos to kind of help them learn it, right? Because I think interpreting is a huge skill in itself, and that's what makes that's one of the elements that makes you a good instructor. And obviously, being able to instruct and make your lesson plans and that kind of stuff as well. It's very important. But so that's what I did. And I also built up my lightsaber format. So I'm going to have them do like forms. I'm mixing Hema into lightsabers, and I'm creating my own forms. Like in Taekwondo or karate, you got forms.
Yeah, I created your forms.
Yeah. Because I mean, forms I know it's cheesy. but it's a good way.
It's not.
Well,
Dude, hold on. When you get the lightsaber out, nothing is cheating.
right?
Everyone knows what they're getting into. Lightsabers on, man, we're going full cheese mode.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I had a little flourishing in there, the cool tricks. The kid, I mean, because in the end of it, your bread and butter in this business is going to be the kids. I mean, not only are they your bread and butter, like monetarily, but they're the future, right? So we gotta do our best to get them interested, to get them locked in, and then when they're serious, then we teach them to become the athlete that they can be. Right?
Exactly.
So it's just getting
That's
that
a wonderful
hooking. Yeah.
And
Right.
and I think just a little caveat to that one is that it doesn't matter what sword play you want to do. If it's more of a Conan style, if it's more of a LARP style, if it's lightsaber, if it's historical, ninja, samurai, anything, it's getting the kids involved or aiming the part, and then you give them breadcrumbs and they go wherever they want.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like if a lightsaber is the thing that they want to pick up, and then they go, wait, so like a German longsword does the same move? Then you might have sparked an interest in somebody that they wouldn't have even known was there.
Exactly.
So instruction comes along. That's awesome.
I'm so glad
I'm
you brought that up.
using lightsaber as my gateway to I was like,
Gateway
now
sword.
try steel.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, not trying to say COVID's going to get harder and things will be different, but the Wandering Sword definitely sometime might have to come and be traveling either Grey Jedi, Sith, whatever it may be like, oh, we brought some other teacher, but it's something cool. And once you told me that, I'm thinking about doing a lightsaber academy, like I wanted to as well.
Right.
Yep, I didn't even know about the lightsaber thing until just now, and I'm like, oh my god, I want to change all the questions to just be lightsaber focused.
Right.
No.
Oh god,
Yeah.
there is a big community. I'm very there's about like 2 or 3 big leagues in the US alone.
Oh,
What were the
wow.
ones you were telling me to look up before, if you would, for our
yeah,
viewers?
yeah. Oh yeah. And I think they're about like 10K. I think to get collectively they have about 10K members.
What was the one you
Oh,
told
wow.
me? Was it
What are
Saber?
their, what are their
The
names?
Saber Legion is the TSL Saber Legion. So they also played a big part in Combat Con this year. So you can see that as well. And then there's a lot of cross athletes, like cross training athletes that go Saber and I was sorry that are from Hema or the SCA, and they jump into the Saber Legion team.
Sure.
Yeah, because it's almost like the median, like where the median like fighting tool, where you can literally have all styles fighting like equally.
Yes.
You know, using the same tool. So you have Kali, like Filipino Kali form. You have Kendoist or Kendoka technically.
Yep.
Kenjutsu folks and Hema and SCA folks as well.
Yeah.
That
No,
sounds
that's super
awesome.
Yeah, you guys would be good at it because it kind of behaves like a super fast rattan, right? So
I mean, it's something, like I said, when COVID hit, there was so many things I want to do, like SCA. I met my goals of becoming crown for mid-realm. I was like, I want to do some boxing. I want to do some lightsaber fighting. I want to do this thing. And then COVID happened. You're like, well, I guess I'll just start training.
Right.
Yeah.
Spencer, we've had a lot of conversations about what the different like lightsaber forms, the 7 forms, like what they would actually look like.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a thing we've talked about a lot. Like, well, 4 would use these moves because it's a strong, powerful state. Like, we have actually had those conversations.
So Phil, what we said is thank you so much for making this organically happen. So now the Wandering Sword can talk about more lightsaber stuff organically.
Yep.
Right.
Channel
switch.
But getting back to some of the questions, and at the end we'll do a little bit more of Rift until you have to go to bed, what we'll work on. But
for sure.
Also, what is your favorite martial art then? Like, and it doesn't have to be the best, but what was your favorite martial art?
Yeah. Honestly, I did boxing, I did kung fu, I did taekwondo, and out of all like the hand forms and whatnot, I think I like boxing. But
right on.
But in weapons, I definitely love Hema because it's the research that I truly love the most about it. Because I find that, like, you know, if you take karate or kung fu, for instance, you know, my master learned from another master, and that master learned from another master. There's a lineage, which is awesome. That's great. But I feel like the knowledge got watered down. You know what I mean? So it's like if you taught me something and I taught somebody else something, that message is going to be skewed by the time I get to the next person, right?
It's a
Because
gigantic
everybody
telephone.
adds a little bit to it, right? But
Yeah.
I mean, granted, that's good because, you know, they innovate what they've learned to make it work for them at that time, which makes sense. But I want to know how, like, I want to go back into the past and see how it was and try to get close to the source as possible, right?
Yeah.
And so in Hema, in the world of Hema, it allows you to do that, and it rewards you for that. So, and that's how I got my, you know, instructor certification, because I showed them my knowledge in Distressa, and I was tested for it, and that was my reward, right? To be able to teach people this now. What I've learned from my research.
And that they're more
really
built,
cool.
it's your own lineage there too, because you're giving your, I'm going to say if we're doing martial arts wise, your black belt, but also your teacher certificate. And now you can say, I was trained by someone, then you've trained someone. That's really cool.
Yeah, right?
Cool.
Next question. For running a modern martial arts school, what do you think is the most important skill that you have to be that kind of teacher?
Honestly, you could be the best fighter and not be able to be successful in this business, because after all, it's a business. So it's like the yin and the yang. You got to have a balance of business and martial arts. So marketing and accounting is just as important as your longsword forms or your rapier forms, or, you know, whatever forms. So it's having the mix of both. I think thankfully, like, I was an entrepreneur before I had a DJ business, and I did weddings, photography, all that kind of stuff. And so I had the business background. And so that really helped me truly be successful. Like how I became successful, it truly helped me with that. So all I really needed was to get better at my martial forms.
That's awesome.
Right. Yeah. But I really think having, you know, you could say having business skills, but ultimately it also comes down to the format of how you teach. Like, do you want to be a McDojo, or do you want to, you know, and balancing that, because the McDojos, they know how to keep and retain their students. You could be super historic, teach people, you know, let's go through this page and do this, but you'll only retain the real history nerds. You're not going to retain the athletes or the, you know, the people who want to take the sport form of it. So it's the balancing history and sport, but also making it fun for everybody who isn't about history and sport. Maybe they're just there for a workout. So it's balancing all that. And so you feel like a juggler, really.
Yeah, no, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Wow. Not only managing the checkbooks, but you're also balancing people's interests. So
yeah, that's a tough order, man.
It's not for everybody, for sure.
No. And I think that's something interesting as viewers look at this part. Find out what makes you tick, and maybe you may not be the one that wants to run the whole thing, but sometimes maybe you can help people in just teaching. Because everyone, it's something I saw where not everybody, I don't want to be a manager. I want to have my own business and do something. But somebody's dream out there is to be a manager for something. So think about that. That's true. Moving to our next question was, what's even though we talked about your favorite martial art, but who's your favorite martial artist or swordsman?
Ooh. Okay. Hand to hand, Ali, Bruce Lee.
Yeah. I like
they're
that.
The innovators of the game, right? So I love innovators because they make everything better. Right?
Yeah.
But in Hema, it's got to be Tom Pui, only because he is the best Spanish rapier styled fighter that I've ever seen, and would love to train under, but he's in Spain.
Yeah, so, exactly.
Yeah. And he doesn't compete because he's just that good. He just faces other masters, and then you can see his skill, and it's just beautiful. I find that he's close to by the book. Like he's not like super by the book, but he's close, and he does it in a way that works for the sporty purpose too. Like you can see that he can compete with his by the book style and do good, because there's people who are very by the book, but when you throw them in a competition, they get beat by the sporty fencer. Maybe they're too focused on by the book, right? But it's hard to find that person that could do both, and he's one.
Yeah, it's super important to take the things that are in our Hema text and say, okay, but how does this actually apply, and when do you apply it? And that's like what separates the scholars from like our top end performers.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because I mean they used that martial arts in a different game of life and death.
Right. Yeah. Very different rules.
And we're using it in sport, which is totally different. So
you can't do that. That's not allowed. No.
Yeah. Obviously, the sporty style is gonna be better in sport competition, right? But,
yeah. And the other ones were like, it worked because the person was alive afterwards, so they got to teach it.
Right. Like I asked an Olympic. Sorry, I asked.
You're fine.
Olympic fencer. How do they train, right? What was the strategy? He was an ex-Olympic fencer. And he's like, man, straight up, forget about your million techniques. Like you literally, Olympians, they have 3 good techniques, but they have 20-something, 30-something ways to get you into a position that they can use those 3 techniques. So it's all about mastering your very few handful of techniques, but then it's all the mind, like it's all building that game up of how to
get you there,
exactly
yeah.
And
that made me
that made me think like, damn, he's right.
Exactly. But then it's also knowing it's taking you have this whole treasure chest or toolbox and you're like, I could use them all, but you're like, you take these 3 and then you work on getting those 3 really well and you put yourself in good situations.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
All right. So next question. What's your most fun thing that you like to do that's not sword related? Also not lightsaber related.
Damn. That's tough, man. That's tough. Well, yeah, honestly, I like to chop wood and cut grass with the scythe. I'm like one of those crazy guys.
No, cutting grass with a scythe. I know a lot of your viewers may not be country people, but with a full reaper scythe, not like a real scythe. It's a technique. It is
a technique, and you know what? It all applies to sword fighting. It builds your core.
Turn the hips with it.
Right? It engages your hips. No, but I used to be a DJ. I used to be a breakdancer, and I like to game. I'm a nerd. I'm a nerd in the end of it, right?
So are we,
right?
Turns out, Phil, this is a room full of nerds. So you're right.
That's pretty cool. And I was going to bring up that's the one thing about Facebook these days. So I'm like, let me go spy on Phil. Let me go see some things that I can bring up from his past, and hopefully it won't trigger him. But when I saw you doing some of the breakdance stuff, I was like, okay, that's really, really cool. I hope he says some of that.
Awesome.
You know, surprisingly, I advise people who are really into martial arts and swords to take up dance, because it really helps with your footwork. You don't have to do breakdancing, and like anything really, it helps with the balance and footwork, and that's where I got most of my footwork from. It's all from my dance background.
And that's what I tell a lot of people as well.
Out of context on that. Sorry, Spencer. I'm going to quote you out of context on that. Breakdancing makes you good at Hema. 2020.
It makes me think of, now my nerds really showing, but showing Samurai Champloo with Mugen when all of his moves are like dancing moves.
You know what? I should try that one day. Like a head spin and just hold the longsword and just
exactly like hold this and do like
please film that and send it to me. I've got to see it if that happens.
That's gonna be Phil's special technique.
Right? No, you lose hair when you head spin, so it's not
you have special gear? That's
you
why
get like a spot right here. It's just a weird spot, and it like you grow a callus over the spot.
Oh my God.
And that's why, a lot of people have now seen, like, why have you started going Mr. T on us, or Mr. S, as I'm saying? It's because I tried to do the breakdance, and I just skinned the whole side off on both sides, so you got to be careful and wear your head.
Too many head slides.
Yeah, like too many head slides, and you're like, oh God. No, that's a good question. I like it. So, another question. what is what you want to see in the future of Hema or in martial arts in general? What do you want to see?
That's a good question. Honestly, I'd like to get rid of the E as much as, like, I mean, I love Hema, and Hema could be its own, like, I want to see a bigger picture.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see like a historical world martial arts or something, where, because you know what, like the only reason why we haven't done this, granted, because everybody's always in their own bubble.
Sure.
But the reason why we haven't done, like, this hasn't happened is because we never had the gear to make this happen.
Yes.
But like now we have the gear that is safe enough to hit people with a 3-pound longsword, right? So
yeah,
I think we're ready, right? I think we have the gear for this. So I love to see this one day. I mean, like China tried to do it in like an octagon format with.
I know, with the polyurethane weapons.
Yeah. And they didn't use steel too, but it looked like tin, or like it didn't look like steel. I don't know.
Yeah, because I think it was weapon. What was it called? My brain's trying to go for it. It was either like Weapon Masters or something wise, but they had a whole bunch of different practitioners.
Yeah, and
they
were
came down to a
wearing
point
Hema
system.
gear with like different, and they had all these cool like because China has so many different kind of cool weapons, so they were fighting off against that, and I could totally see Hema getting, maybe not an octagon because that's kind of.
No, it would have to be something different because, like I said, it turned theirs. They had really impressive people, but it started to break down into sport fighting. So people that had these great techniques and other things, they just come out flailing because it's like points. You're trying to just get range, so you wouldn't get to see a lot of the technique. And people weren't really scared about getting cut, so you're like just going.
Yeah.
Sorry,
so we make it like more realistic, or have a different sort of rule set, and have all the different kind of martial arts. And represent that martial arts. I think that would be cool. I mean, like Bruce Lee's right about, like, if this was a sport competition, if it was sport, not martial arts, right? The best style is no style. Like you mix them all up.
You take what works.
Yeah. That is the best style. But the point of what I would like to see is that I want to see the different styles go together. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, fight together. I want the purist fighting together, because that's what stimulates what would have happened maybe in the past, perhaps. Right? Like in China, different kung fu masters would challenge each other to see who has the best kung fu. At that point, they were making up their kung fu. They were making up their style. So but that was their way of researching if their style was good, was to go fight other styles. And I'd like to see that with all the different styles like that.
And it allows people to have a pride in things. Like, it's not being too prideful, but you can have that whole like, go my team. But then you also teach people to be like, if you lose, be grateful, and then go learn about things. But you can also have your different schools come together. No, I like that idea. I like that a lot.
But I think that's the hard part. It's like, the rule set and making sure people it doesn't become MMA where it comes fully mixed, right? That's the hard part.
Yeah, that would be the difficult part. Like when because I've heard many people talk about the remove the E, but then where would people go if they want to learn like Lichtenauer? You know what I mean? Like if they want to learn like that particular part, then if they're going to the only organization that does MMA, you know what I mean? Like it's tougher to learn that. You're learning the sport that it's built for.
Right.
It's a tough way to do that, because I see the value in both ideas. And so I'm like,
if there's a way to mesh it together and keep, would be perfect.
And that's the part where obviously you have to have money to make these things work, right? The instructors have to get paid, but we're not, in theory, worried about money, but we got to keep the lights on. And that's where, if there was some kind of giant world exchange program where it was like, you're paying this thing this year, you can get shipped off to Sensei Phil's school because he's well reputable, and you come from Spencer or Kyle's school, we teach stuff, and that's where people could learn more things freely. But let's be honest, the money tied to it makes it kind of hard because you want to learn all these things, but if you don't have the money to do it, it's really interesting.
And in order to get the money, the problem is you have to make people want to watch it. You have to make people want to spend the money. And if you ever watch like a Hema tournament and you're not a Hemaist, you'd be like, it's kind of boring because as soon as they hit, it stops, right? It's not like MMA. It's not like It's not like MMA where you continue until somebody gets knocked out or whatever,
Yep.
right? So, but the problem is if you do that in Hema, you ruin the martial art. It becomes just a beat down sport,
Yeah,
like HMA or whatever, right? Like,
oh, absolutely. Like the sport versus the spectacle have to be meshed as well in a way that's good for the audience,
right?
but is also good for the practitioner.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really, it's interesting. I think that's something very good to think about, especially as things go on in the future and as more of the barriers get torn down, but you find more structures which people can work within. I think it'll be pretty interesting. So that's a really good answer. Then we could talk about that for a while. We might have to make a
Yeah. So I've got a follow-up question to that. And this one is about humbling moments. So in all of your time practicing martial arts, what was your most humbling moment where you just were completely taken down and you looked at things from a new angle?
Okay. Most people go to Rome to see Rome, to see all the Colosseum and whatever. I went to Rome to fight or fence Francisco Loda. He's was ranked #1 rapier and #1 rapier and dagger in the Hema rankings at the time, and yeah, I just wanted to test my skill, but I also wanted to learn. Like I feel like sometimes it's good to adopt that Dragon Ball Z theory. Like as in like most people when they lose, they hate life and they don't want to play anymore. But me, it's like but no, it's for me, it's like you lose, but it makes you stronger. Because you, right? So you keep trying, keep losing. As long as you're losing, you're learning. When you're not losing, you're not learning anymore. And so that's why I wanted to get my butt destroyed.
And so when you went to Rome, what happened?
Well, Loda destroyed me. I might have gotten like maybe 2 hits and like some double kills, but he completely floored me. And yeah, but he taught me like he took me aside after. Well, first I fought a bunch of his instructors. He was so nice, and a lot of these European fencers, like if you tell them that you're coming, they will make this day for you because you came all the way there for them. They'll make that day for you, which is like God bless him. Like he's awesome. Yeah. He brought all of his instructors. Like they were having like they had like instructors practice because they were getting ready for the Minsk games because they were going to compete in Minsk. And so they invited me over. I got to fence a lot of them. And then in the end, I wish I got to fence Loda first, to be honest, because I was so tired. But
Sure.
Yeah, because these guys, they go from guys and girls, sorry.
Yeah,
they train from 7 or 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Like that's a training day. Like they literally train, eat, nap, train.
That sounds like heaven.
Yeah. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, holy cow. Like I thought I trained a lot. But no, like these guys do it like a job. And that's how you get good fast. But yeah, he taught me a lot of things with tells and stuff. And like the mind strategy. So he taught me a lot about that, and I won't say anything because I'm keeping that with me till I die.
I mean that's what good martial arts do. You keep it to yourself until the boss battle comes there, and you set up your own boss battle where you're like, I want to fight you, and he's like, that sounds great. Fight my other people first, and then you get there and you're like,
Right, so I get there and I'm like, I've got no more HP left.
But I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. Oh my gosh. So I know this kind of tied in. We talked about all this a little bit, but what are your future goals for yourself? So not necessarily martial arts team in general. Like, what are you putting on yourself as far as your Dragon Ball Z journey? I mean, maybe you're working on trying to get Super Saiyan. Like, what are you trying? I know I'm not there yet. I'm only like maybe Kaioken 4.
Right?
Yeah.
Jesus. You know, like I think I'm at the point where I'm so invested into this business and training, like the new talent. I won't be able to like really go and compete as much. And so I think I might have to pass the torch early, which is sad. But I will try to compete as much as I can. But realistically, like being isolated on an island makes flights very hard to get out. It's like the Hawaii of the US without all the good stuff. So it's just it's cold, it's icy. Like last winter we had like, I don't know, 20 feet snow. Like I couldn't see my, like you had to dig yourself out of the door. Like the door was covered in snow.
Wow.
So a lot of people would jump off their second balcony or, you know, second floor balcony in order to get out of their house, right? So it's like that. It's the real north, right? So
Yeah.
And it just not a lot of folks here, so flights are very expensive. But I think my goal really is to train the next generation of talent. I hope one day I can bring out Newfoundlanders to tournaments in the U.S. and Canada and compete and put like Newfoundland on the map, right? For you know, the martial arts scenes.
Yeah.
So
that's a very admirable goal. I like it. Pretty
Yeah,
cool.
I hope that in 5 to 10 years we start seeing that. Oh, Team Newfoundland.
Right.
Don't mess them.
Gotcha. And they'll say, yeah, your lineage. You're like, yes, it's all from Provost Phil Swift. And we'll be like, yep, we knew him right when he was just starting off. We knew he had great things. But no, I think it's really cool.
And it's funny because the Americans, you know, have this ideal of how Canadians speak. Wait till you hear Newfoundlanders. Oh, it's gonna mess you guys right up.
Oh wow!
Huh. It's like it's an interesting dialect, or I guess it's a dialect, or I don't think it's an accent. It's more like a dialect. But I'm not a linguistic person. But basically, it's like a mix of Irish and like British, like British slang almost, and Canadian, all in one pot, and you're like, wait, what?
That sounds interesting.
That sounds wild. When I was in Toronto, I got really used to the Canadian accent. Like I could pick it up immediately. Usually when how people from Toronto say Toronto.
Oh yeah, fair enough.
I have terrible with accents,
Toronto,
but they don't. They remove O's. They're just Toronto.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And I'm like, that's another Canadian like word that I can tell.
Yeah, and the real like the streets Torontonians will be like Toronto.
Yes.
That's almost like New Yorker, but like wow. That's just I'm just glad everyone speaks sword. I mean that's my part. So there we go. Well, did you have any questions for us? I mean, things.
Yeah. I mean, like, so I've been following you guys up as much as I could, and it's very, very interesting. I love what you guys are doing because you guys are not only, you know, you guys are bringing out like LARP scene, and I'm a LARPer too, so that's why I'm yes, thank you for doing that. But yeah, and you guys are kind of like connecting people with all these different, you know, outlets of martial arts, right? So I definitely I want to know what you guys like, where you guys plan on going after COVID, and you know what's the big picture here for you guys?
So it's a good question you asked. That we just had like a video where we talk about our vision, where we talked about some things, but the main part is we got a huge thing going on next year. Sometimes we can going to Japan and following the path of Yasuke, who has pretty much been my cornerstone for everything I've done, SCA, everything I've done a lot my martial arts, and now becoming more of what I want to study in real life, between the whole African society as well as going towards Japanese martial arts, which I love, but then also connected me to the Hema scene, which is where I'm starting to try to become a instructor and also working with the mom stiff that way. But then past that, we got some other thing. Oh, go ahead. What were you saying?
No, so it sounds like you're going to try to do this full time too.
Pretty much. I mean, I'm not really the breadwinner. I'm trying to go to school for physical therapy, but yet I'm also getting my associates and things. But I'm trying to make this work, not to pull like a lot of money, but you're trying to make it facilitate itself, right?
Yeah, of course.
That's what definitely
our big thing is that we just want to connect people that do martial arts. And like if we can find a way to do that as a big thing, that's awesome. But if not, we're just going to keep working on small projects and keep doing what we love, which is swords. Like we already love swords and we're going to do sword stuff anyway.
Yeah.
So after Japan, we're talking about doing we've got a lot of ideas that we haven't like unveiled to everyone in the public yet.
Okay.
But there's some other wild ideas too, and we're gonna keep doing exactly what you said. Like we wanted to talk to guys that do like foam fighting and LARPing and stuff like that, but then
and lightsabers,
other ends of the spectrum, and then like lightsabers is something totally different. Basically, if it's sword related, we have already talked about, and we have like okay, when can we do this one? Or we can't leave the country, but we can do this one in the country, so let's do that. Like, we're going through. We've got some ideas.
No, that's awesome.
Like Christian Cameron, I don't know if you ever talked to him a whole lot or watch some of the things he's been doing. He's
a Hema practitioner based in Toronto. His website is Histora something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I met him at WMAW, this last recent one, and he wants to go over, even though we haven't really talked about this, but it's something he's been producing, and we're going to go there or want to. He's going to Greece for a reenactment as far as like the whole, I don't know what part, it's like not the Battle of Marathon, it's something where it's a whole huge reenactment, and it was supposed to be for like the 2000
Battle of
anniversary.
I've got his website up now. It's boarstooth.net, and his organization is Hoplologia.
Oh, yes.
So he said before, he's like, hey, want to come and do this? And I'm like, of course I do. And now with the Wandering Sword, I'm like, that would be something else to do there. Granted, we got COVID all going, but that's something we want to do and document that. Plus, it's a good excuse for me to get another kit that I've always wanted.
And man, I've always wanted the cool Greek Corinthian helmet. Like, put it on like Brad Pitt and Troy and just like roll out with the spear. That sounds amazing.
That's gonna be awesome. Yeah. He's a part of WMA. Yes. WMA.
Yep.
Him, Greg, all the things they do. So really, I just want to train more. We want to document some things and just see where things take us. And as you said about this whole just world martial arts, it makes me think about in the future if we get enough following or just we're working out together with people like yourself, like just making like a whole, almost like a Wandering Sword con. Because like we're not trying to make a school necessarily like the Wandering Sword. That'd be our own specific regular schools, but have it like, hey, come join the project and just come learn stuff.
Yeah, bring your A game from your sports, and we'll meet together and find like a rule set with as much commonality as possible, and then beat each other up and laugh about it.
But and not even like as far as like just the fighting, like just like with WMAW, they have classes. It's like, all right, this day it's gonna be Hema stuff. This day it's gonna be Hema stuff. This day it's gonna be this stuff. This day it's going to be lightsaber stuff. So now you're making the academics deal with that lightsaber. We're like, but what? I don't. This and this is the part where it's not you're making fun of each one. You're just saying, hey, step into this world. When most people are already there, but they're like, but there's no documentation. I'm like, well, that's because it was in a galaxy long, long ago. And
exactly.
So, but let's do this.
It's in the future, man.
So it's just the part of that dream, just bringing people together, and that's really what we want to make happen. And
that's awesome. No, I just. Definitely respect that. Like you guys are doing everybody a huge favor. I mean, like if you guys were out there 6 years ago, like I would have, I like the reason why I didn't get into this when I was 18 is because this was not advertised. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I definitely respect what you guys are doing because it's helping getting the word out there and
thank you,
helping people get into their hobby that they'll be hooked on.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that. And whether you know it or not, you're already a part of the project because you're helping doing things. Yeah. And cut. Thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Phil, thanks for taking time out of your busy day to let us get to know you a little bit better. If you like what you heard, make sure to like and subscribe. Thanks to all of our patrons. Make sure to check out our Patreon. Special shout out to our top patrons: Ajax Dragonfuhr, Cito Sama, and Byron Swanson, Pathfinders of the Wandering Sword. Also, make sure to check out Phil's channel in the links below. Like Phil says, never settle. Wander on.